Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and we're going to have a great show. We're going to have a refresher course on illegal aliens. I mean, I think we're entitled to it. We're entitled to it because why? Because, let's see, Thomas Homan told us last week, the former director of ICE, that there are 40 different nationalities at the border, at the southern border of Mexico, trying to get in the United States. So we need a refresher course, and also we're giving a refresher course on illegal aliens because we have new listeners. So my old folks, not my old folks, but the folks who've been with me since the inception, since the beginning of the Naked Truth Report, know the data. They know what's going on with illegal aliens. They've heard Claude Anderson, they've heard Frank Morris, they've heard Barbara Jordan, they've heard Terry Anderson, they've heard Father Basio. We're going to go over, I've got Claude Anderson and let's see. Oh, I have Frank Morris. Oh, and I also have the dialogue that President Bill Clinton gave in 1995. We're going to hear that too. I mean, I'm beginning to see folks coming around to the fact that I don't know, I'm judging by my social media. I mean, I can't know what millions of people are doing. My social media is just a small microcosm, a small little tiny universe of what people are thinking, right? We know what the mainstream media is thinking. We know what the left stream media, the lamestream media is thinking. They're thinking wrong about this issue of illegal aliens. And they've been thinking wrong since day one. But they weren't thinking that way when Bill Clinton gave his inaugural speech in 1995. They weren't thinking that way. They were thinking like the way Bill Clinton was going. They were thinking the way Barbara Jordan was going in the 1990s. But they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. Oh, I already started, but I didn't say Happy Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. You guys know that my daddy fought in World War II. That's a big deal. It matters. So happy Memorial Day to all my truth warriors and mythbusters out there. So basically, we're getting this refresher course in illegal aliens. So why don't we play, Jeff is my engineer. Jeff, why don't we play the Bill Clinton cut, please? Thank you.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Okay, that was Bill Clinton. Did you notice that he called them illegal aliens? This was our president. You see how Democrats change words, change terms to suit their needs. It has nothing to do with honesty. It has nothing to do with the truth. It has nothing to do with any kind of inherent or intrinsic value. It has to do with manipulating words and expressions and terms so that they can have the one-upmanship, the power, the control, the right way to manipulate a policy. Because Bill Clinton called them illegal aliens. Today, what do we say? Undocumented immigrants. Someone in the country illegally is not an immigrant. They're an illegal alien. This is the proper term that has been deciphered or determined or is stated in the federal code. You see. Another thing I want to mention is this. I saw Cornel West have a discussion with Candace Owens this was last Friday, on the Ingram angle. And Cornel West, I've interviewed him, you can Google Kathleen Wells, Cornel West. I've interviewed him. Cornel West said that socialism is power sharing. It's about power. Socialism is power sharing. So in other words, let's see, American citizens are going to be power sharing with illegal aliens. Another thing that he said, he redefined the term xenophobia, because Candace Owens said, well, xenophobia doesn't refer to Black folks. We're not xenophobic. Or no, this is what Candace Owens was saying. Like, when you talk about xenophobia, you're not talking about a fear of Black Americans. We're American citizens. Why would someone refer to a fear of Black Americans as xenophobia? You see. And he redefined that term. He says, oh no, xenophobia means you're afraid of the others. So, what Black Americans aren't others, we're American citizens, you see. We're not others. So anyway, that was an interesting thing. And I think that I want to listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. I want to listen to that tape of Dr. Claude Anderson. And in fact, I tweeted it to Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson, because you see, our so-called Black leaders or intellectuals or academicians, Michael Eric Dyson, Cornel West, Tavis Smiley, and whoever else, they've led. This is something that I said. Black academicians, politicians, John Lewis, all of them, Cummings, all of them, they have literally led Black Americans straight to the abyss. I always say that. We're like on the precipice, teetering. Another thing I want to mention is that last week I went down to Mid-Wilshire. Now, all of us Los Angelinos know where Mid-Wilshire is. When I was a teenager, or a little older, like 18, 19, 20 or whatever, I would go to the Red Onion. It was a Mexican restaurant on Wilshire Boulevard. And at that time, they had it was a club, you could go dancing. And so in my late teens or early 20s, I would go there, eat, and also dance. And many Black folks went there, Black Americans. I went, it's important we say Black Americans. I call us Native Black Americans. You guys know that. Anyway, I was down in Mid-Wilshire last Wednesday, actually. And I think I was like the only Black person in the area. I might be stretching it, but I walked across the street to the bank and so on, to the ATM, to the bank. There was a cafe, but I didn't see any Black people. I really didn't. All I saw were Asians, Koreans specifically, and Latinos. That's it. So in other words, 30 years later, and Black folks have literally disappeared from Mid-Wilshire. Mid-Wilshire is like Wilshire Boulevard and Crenshaw going east to going east to Normandy or Vermont or, Vermont. Yeah. You remember the Bullocks Wilshire? I used to go to Bullocks Wilshire when I was a little kid, and get my dress for my piano recitals. Anyway, let's take a listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, and when I come after we listen to that, we'll listen to Frank Morris, and I'll talk about the fact that they're lying to us. I think that Dr. Claude Anderson is very clear. Democrats have lied to Black Americans from day one. So when they talk about President Trump being a liar, well, Democrats have been lying to Black Americans for 6 decades, yet we've sustained that party. Jeff, can we hear the clip from Dr. Claude Anderson, please?
They're walking across the border. They're going to get a free lunch. They don't have to pay dues. But you got public policies in this country that are equating them to black folk. They're equating them to black, and what we've allowed them to do starting in 1970 is to wrap themselves in black folks' suffering and pretend somehow they suffered along with black folk. And therefore, whatever program is created under this misguided label called minority, that they are equal to you and over you. So that's the problem with the influx of immigrants. And what they are doing is coming to the country and doing what we've never been allowed to do and we've never been bright enough to do in some senses, is to build your own communities. You gotta build your communities. You see, every group that when they leave their homeland, the last thing they do is look in the mirror. They look in the mirror and say, I'm going to America. And I'm gonna go to America, I'm gonna find me a community or neighborhood. Or I'm gonna build one with people who look like me. And so that's why you go all over this nation, where they're coming out of Asia. You will find Vietnamese towns all over California, little Cambodias. You'll find a Chinatown in every major city. You'll see the Hispanics come in, they'll build a little Mexico, a little Havana, a little Hialeah. You find little Italys, French towns, German towns, Greek towns, Polish towns, but you cannot find one black town. So we got major problems. That's the second thing, is dealing with this influx of immigrants. And what I'm telling you is that they're not coming in here to be your partner or your ally. They're coming in to compete with you. And your black organization and your black leadership in this country is afraid to teach black folk how to compete with all these other groups. And they're afraid because they keep trying to create allies with them. You cannot ally with anybody who's planning on supplanting you. You see, if you go check the Council of La Raza, you check the Council of Salala, if you check the National Hispanic Defense League, if you check the National Hispanic Party, the first thing that all of them have is to change the issues in this country from white and black to white and Hispanic. They're planning on supplanting you. When the National Hispanic Party started in Miami in 1974, I was in the governor's office there. I was the only black in politics. That was the first item on their agenda, saying by the year 2000, they want to take blacks out of the equation. And that's why, as Dr. Price just said, that's why they control South Florida. They play to win. We play to play.
We play to play. I think that's relevant. So Cornel West, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, all the Democratic presidential candidates, expect, Black Americans have sustained the Democratic Party for 6 decades. That's a fact. Democrats wouldn't be winning without Black Americans, Native Black Americans. They wouldn't win. So we have sustained this party for 6 decades. You heard what Dr. Claude Anderson said. You heard that audio. Life is a competition between groups. Racism is a competition between groups. American citizens should not be competing with non-American citizens for jobs. You heard what Bill Clinton said. The laws must be obeyed. If American citizens have to obey the law, that's something that Nancy Pelosi keeps saying, that President Trump isn't above the law. Yet illegal aliens are. Okay? And this is why I say that people who support the Democratic Party, Democratic voters, are not logical, and or they're not knowledgeable, and or they're not well researched. If you're well researched, if you research issues, you would be knowledgeable. The other issue is why people who at this point still support the Democratic Party have blinders on. They only listen to their small circle of confidants, their limited circle, their limited world, their small universe that they exist in. They don't get out that box. They don't, excuse me, they don't look at other information. They immediately label conservatives or Trump supporters, and they're not interested in their perspective. They're self-righteous because they believe they're right. They believe there are better people. This is something that I heard Dennis Prager say the other week. He said, liberals or the left, Democrats, believe that they believe that they have the right intentions. They believe that their intentions are good. And conservatives look at what good will it do? What will be the results? What will be the results of this X, Y, and Z? What good will it do? In other words, they're more pragmatic. They're more in the real world. Liberals are more fanciful. They're living in fantasy land. So the fact, I saw another data point that said it is definitive that Hillary Clinton got her popular vote win or margin by votes from California exclusively, you see. And California is a one-party state. So California is just inundated with, Hollywood folks. Those are fantasy folks. They're living in a fantasy world. They're not in the real world because they never know any data. All they know is name calling. And people who believe in superficial and shallow notions that they get from TV watching and Hollywood films and the media. And they never go outside that box. They're not very observant. This is very disappointing. You do not want your country run by the lowest common denominator. And people who live life not based on reality, but based on wishful thinking or fantasies are the lowest common denominator. They don't have a grip on reality. They can't face reality, Anyway, let's take a listen to Jeff, can we take a listen to Frank Morris. Let's listen to the Frank Morris clip.
There's this general belief there's somehow going to be this grand coalition, political progressive coalition that's going to have these immigrants that come in that's going to reinforce, the people of color thing. And this is completely at odds to the reality. Once again, it's this African American tradition of where we believe that that everything is going to be all right in the short term because by and by Jesus is going to take care of everything. It's a real belief, or the belief that we can identify with the underdog. We can identify the poor immigrants, and that's the perception that many African Americans have. But it's not the perception on the other side. They don't understand that the game is not played politically that way. One of the sad and tragic facts is that nobody really speaks for many of the grassroots, poor, less educated, working class Americans. In the Common Destiny study, which was one of the greatest studies that was done, and it became clear that no matter what the arguments are, that less skilled, less educated American workers are those most hurt by immigration. These are the ones that no one is really speaks for. No one really identifies for these folks. And for African American workers, it goes way back. And this is another one of the sad and tragic facts, is that Americans have always given and preferred benefits to immigrants over some of our own, especially our African Americans. We've done studies that go all the way back into the 1890s, where we have Frederick Douglass, W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington lamenting this fact.
I think Frank Morris is clear. Dr. Claude Anderson is clear. When I've played Terry Anderson, he's very clear. And Bill Clinton was clear about illegal aliens. I mean, this isn't like something ambiguous. It's clear. And why people don't They refuse. Well, the politicians know because Barbara Jordan testified in front of them. The politicians know because Bill Clinton talked about it, right? Even Obama talked about it. So they are lying to the American people. They're lying to the American people because they want control and power. And the American voters who consistently do not take the time to examine the data, examine the research, examine the information that is out there. That audio clip that I played from Dr. Claude Anderson and Bill Clinton and Frank Morris, those are all on the internet. Okay. So, if people they lack curiosity. They are self-righteous because they believe they're right. They know they're right. I hear them calling in the Washington Journal all the time. The Democrat callers, they are convinced they are right. Okay, can we play the second clip of Frank Morris, Jeff, please? Thank you.
The tragedy is that young people, when they see negative differentials between the African American community and the rest, have no idea that these have been strongly influenced by policy, and that immigration policy, which is currently by the non-enforcement of the laws, the labor laws, are exacerbating this fact. When I've testified before Congress, I've tried to focus on a number of different things. One of them has been comical. The black representatives, some of whom were with me, I've served with when I was a former executive director of Congressional Black Caucus, like John Conyers, and others like Sheila Jackson Lee have not been. And with Sheila Jackson Lee, it's been very funny because when she's repeatedly said that all of us are children of immigrants, I've had to remind her at least 2 of my last 3 times that there's no way that the experience of African Americans coming to this country could be considered as immigrant experiences. There are bad analogies that as African Americans that we should be really concerned that we do not let the analogy go that the experiences of immigrants, legal and illegal, come to this country can be compared with the African American civil rights movement. We were people who were never in the privileged position, and that's why I make clear to Congress that immigrants are in the privileged position for jobs, that they're the most vulnerable employees. They're the ones that employees prefer because they cannot question when overtime is denied to them with the Department of Labor. They can't go to OSHA for safety kinds of regulations, and that they're really vulnerable and compliant. These are the preferred employees. So there's an array of difficult things that affect our low-wage workers that Congress is ignoring, and it's ignoring by not enforcing our immigration laws or enforcing our labor laws. That's a tremendous disadvantage to the people who are most vulnerable, and those are not the immigrants, but they're our own citizens.
Okay, they're our own citizens. So life is a competition between groups, and American citizens should not be competing with illegal aliens for jobs. And I think his name is Weld. I don't remember, is his first name Bill Weld? W-E-L-D. He even said, I heard he was on Washington Journal this afternoon, and he said that regarding immigration, he said that we need more. He's running for president. I think he's going to be a candidate on the Republican ticket or on the independent ticket. I'm not certain, but I remember him saying that we need more immigrants in the country because we need more agricultural workers and we need more construction workers. Can you believe he said that? I mean, it's just absurd. They have a shifting position. And I know that Nancy Pelosi was in the Congress when Bill Clinton was giving that inauguration speech in 1995, where he talks about illegal aliens. But now, Nancy Pelosi expects Democrats to care about the kids at the border who are not even in the country legally, right? And that's why I'm playing this song, okay? Because Democrats expect Black Americans to what? Heal the world. Heal the world. We've been here 6 decades. We've been here 460 years, not 6 decades. I made a mistake. We've been here 460 years. We've sustained the Democratic Party. We are regressing economically, and now we must heal the world. This is Kathleen. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm Kathleen Wells. We'll be right back.
Kathleen Wells, the host of the Naked Truth Report, wants to hear from you. Just like our borders, the phone lines, well, they're wide open. Call in at 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. 866-870-KRLA.
Democratic Party for 6 decades. We've been in this country 460 years, right? We right after slavery, we own 0.5% of the wealth of America when there were only 200,000 free black folks, right? As I said, we've been here 460 years. Right after slavery, there were black codes. Then we went through Jim Crow and all that, right? So now Nancy Pelosi, and we're clear about how illegal aliens adversely impact Black America and all Americans, but more specifically, Black Americans. High immigration adversely impacted Black America in the 1800s. This is undeniable. This is irrefutable, right? It is a fact. The data is clear. And despite all of this stuff, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats expect Black Americans to care for the world, to heal the planet. That's why I played that song. They expect Black Americans to heal the world, to care about the entire planet, to care about all people of color, to put people of color all over the world and their interests before Black Americans, despite the fact that we are regressing economically, specifically because why? Illegal aliens have the jobs, have the construction jobs. And I heard Bill Weld, W-E-L-D, he said, we need to get more immigrants in the country to take construction jobs. Can you imagine? What is wrong with these? These politicians are frauds. They're cons. They're lying to the American people. And at this point, the only folks that believe these folks are gullible, naive, uneducated, unknowledgeable, unresearched people. And it is, I want to say, if you're an adult and you are naive about life, if you're ignorant about how life works, how life and living works, that's like really bad. That's sad. That's bad. what is the word I'm looking for? There's no excuse for it. That's ignorant. There's no excuse to be an adult and not have figured out how life works. Okay? You do not, and this is why I can't understand these Hollywood celebrities. As I said, I think they're living in a fantasy world. They're in their own cocoon. They're in their own little world and environment, and they don't have to think. They just think of broad strokes, superficial and shallow perspectives of life, a fantasy world. It is apropos that they're actors and actresses because they're in some kind of non-real world reality. They're in a fantasy land. They're fantasizing about life. They don't know, and you can understand why the divorce rate is really high among people in Hollywood, because they're self-absorbed. They're not really aware. They don't observe. This is what I've said this before. I said this when I started the show. They don't observe. They have not observed that Black people are disappearing in Los Angeles. You don't notice that. You don't notice that when you go down to mid-Wilshire, on Wilshire between like Crenshaw going east to Vermont, you don't see Black folks anymore. And when you do see them, they're on the street homeless. You don't notice that. I mean, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, Black folks used to be in mid-Wilshire working. You don't notice that. I don't think there are that many downtown, except if you go to Skid Row. That's like the new neighborhood for Black folks, Skid Row. So these actors and actresses, what it has happened is that area, mid-Wilshire, from Wilshire, Crenshaw going east to like Vermont, Normandy or whatever, it's like these new folks, new people, new to the country, Koreans and Latinos. They didn't know that Black folks used to be around there 20, 30 years ago. They didn't know that. In fact, Black folks used to even live in that area. I can't remember what it's called, but where it was the Red Onion, it's Wilshire and like Wilshire and Wiltern, or Wilshire and Ardmore, and what's another street? But Black folks used to live in those apartments over there off of Wilshire, just south of Wilshire and Ardmore. That was the street. And Vermont and so on and so forth. Now it's all Latinos and Koreans. Black folks have a little, and there's another thing I want to say. Like in my neighborhood, the area, Lamert Park, View Park, Windsor, those areas, Black folks are over in that area. But they have no idea. They do not realize that their kids cannot afford, the kids that grew up in that area cannot afford to buy homes in that area. They cannot afford to buy homes in Lamert Park and View Park and Windsor Hills and Ladera Heights. They cannot afford, and Blacks have already lost. I've gone over this before. They've lost Inglewood and Watts and Compton. They've lost those areas. Yeah, but those Black folks that walk around, I walk around that walk park up there. On what is it called? I can't remember the name, Ingold or something, Reuben Ingold. I walk around there. I know, and these are supposed to be the educated Black folks that have gone to college. They cannot put two and two together. All they keep saying is that gentrification is happening. Well, yeah, and it's white liberals who can afford to buy homes over $1 million. But the kids who grew up in those neighborhoods, they can't afford to buy homes over $1 million. This is very frustrating. Anyway, can we play, Jeff, the audio that I have of Philip, the guy talking about Philly?
There are many, many, many situations in Philadelphia today where Black people, Black workers are simply excluded. You don't see Black people working as plumbers, as carpenters. You don't see them. Why is that? How can you have all this building going on in Philadelphia and see no Black people? You see, Du Bois was concerned about that even back in the day, this exclusion of Black people. Had we listened to him then, or had the people who were responsible for social policy listened to Du Bois then, I think we'd be at a different place today.
So you see, this is the thing. Black Americans have gone the wrong direction, and this is what Dr. Claude Anderson said. Oh, and I want to remind folks to go to Powernomics website, Powernomics, and get the library pack for $99. It's chock full of information. It will provide you with enough information to talk about this this information, talk about Black America effectively in an impactful way, and to talk about it properly, I should say, because we're not armed properly with the information. And I see Nina Turner she's on my, I have her accepted onto my, or rather I should say I follow her on Twitter. I don't know why I do that. Because so funny, because at one point I said, why have you noticed, like I don't know how many of you folks out there go on Twitter, but have you noticed that all these Trump haters, they hang on every word of Trump on Twitter. They respond, they have to one up Trump on everything he tweets. And I said, why do people who hate Trump, why do Trump haters follow him on Twitter? I mean, why do they just want to prove that they're better, and ugh, it's yuck. But anyway, so I do follow Nina Turner. I don't know why I do, but I do. I don't know how that happened. I do. And I see the things that she tweets, and it's always, she's working with Bernie Sanders. We know that, right? And Bernie Sanders, he's been in DC for decades, and he's for illegal aliens. So Bernie Sanders, illegal aliens are the new it group. They're in vogue. They're fashionable for the Democrats. Oh, we must care about illegal aliens. Oh, they're the it girl. Illegal aliens are the it girl. So, we have to care. So Nancy Pelosi tweeted out how, the fifth child had died in custody of ICE. What do you say? I mean, what do you say? What? And these things happen. Everything. He shouldn't be coming illegal. In fact, he wasn't even with a parent. He was an unaccompanied minor. He was with his sister. And this is another thing. These things happen. This, as we know, Thomas Homan told us, Trump isn't doing anything necessarily different than Obama did in terms of housing these people or maintaining the people that actually get into the United States. Although, I mean, he is doing something different in the sense that he has told the Mexican government that if you're going to apply for asylum, you must do so in Mexico. But I don't think that has happened yet. Or I think, what I'm trying to say is that there are people getting into the United States and they're being detained and they're being released into the interior, into states. In fact, they're being bused into California, across United States. They're being detained temporarily because I think that provision that states that you can't detain kids for longer than 20 days was upheld by the Ninth Circuit. So it has to work its way up to the Supreme Court to be adjudicated, because they cannot, at this point, they cannot keep kids longer than 20 days. And also, the detention centers are overflowing. And that's something Thomas Homan mentioned. He said, we're going to get to the point where not children, but men are going to be released into the interior of the United States because they're overflowing. There's overcrowdedness. I'm not sure how these people are getting in, but they're getting in some way, And Thomas Homan told us that there are now 40 different nationalities at the southern border of Mexico trying to get in Mexico. And, one of the border security folks, guys, said his last name, I think, patrol guys, I think his last name was Diaz. He said he stated they lost the border. So we heard what Bill Clinton said in 1995. They're illegal aliens. They're not undocumented workers. They're illegal aliens. That's in the federal code. And he said it's unacceptable. This was 1995. Fast forward to 2020, and we have at least 12 million. So, they should have got a handle on this in 1995, but they didn't. Why didn't they? Who knows why they didn't? I wasn't following politics closely then, and I definitely wasn't following the immigration issue then closely. But why wasn't it handled in 1995? Because we wouldn't be here if it was handled then. And Nancy Pelosi was in the Congress then, and so was Bernie Sanders. So they know what the story is. Oh, why don't I take a call? I see I have a call from Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Kathleen, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I read some articles on Numbers USA.
Yeah.
They're big on immigration, and Breitbart News, and they said Department of Homeland Security Secretary is letting all illegals loose into the interior of the country.
And why
So
is
just
that?
I guess it's overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't Trump have the ability to shut down the border completely and stop this all? And if he does, why isn't he?
I don't think he has the ability. Now I know people are getting mad at Trump, right? I see people like Ann Coulter and everything, and I see, on my social media, I see folks saying like, why isn't, has Trump abandoned California? But I don't know. I mean, I think that I got to get Thomas Homan back on to find out what is happening, because Trump has come through with a new plan. Things are just not working. I don't think he can legally just shut down the border. He can declare a national emergency. I don't know. I'm not certain.
But he did declare a national emergency. So why isn't he
following through?
Can he shut down the border right there? If it's such a national emergency, shut it down completely. Because he was talking about that, wasn't he? But a few months ago, he was talking about shutting it down completely.
Yeah, he did.
But why hasn't he then?
I don't know.
That's my question.
I believe in Trump. I think that, it's like maybe not politically expedient for some reason. I don't have the answer. I can't think of the answer right now. I know he talked about sending down the military. I think obviously, there politically, it may not be, expedient and may not be efficient for him to do that. I don't have the answer. I'm being honest with you. But
yet we send our military to other lands to protect our interests in other countries, but we're not doing it here.
Oh, Daniel,
in our own house.
Daniel, believe me, I'm on your side.
Yeah, I know. I support Trump too in that. Because it's all going through. After I saw the Department of Homeland Security said we're releasing everybody who's illegal into the country, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, and in fact, I did see an article that said that they're busing them to San Bernardino and so on and so forth. A lot will come.
Just another Obama policy right there.
I don't know. Hopefully this is just temporary. Well, one thing I do remember that Trump said, he did say that once they secure that border, they're going to start deporting these folks, okay, and to not get comfortable, because we have at least.
So how long is that going to take to build the wall then to secure it? Since he's not getting the funding, since they're denying him the funding and all that stuff, how long is it going to take?
I don't know, but I think he did get like 1.3 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And he says that they are in the process of building the wall, right? That's what he says, right?
That's what he says, yeah.
And there are new diseases. I just read an article about infectious diseases are now, some police officers had gotten Legionnaire's disease.
Probably from everybody coming over here who hasn't had vaccination shots and everything else. They're bringing disease over from their countries.
Right. I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to next week. This show is a refresher course on illegal aliens. We may do another show next week, a refresher course on illegal aliens. I may bring Thomas Homan back. We are concerned here in California because we're being smashed by this. It is destroying the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's an important thing. You don't even see black folks anymore. You know,
No.
we've completely
Like you were saying on the streets. I'm seeing a lot of them on the streets. Yeah.
like sleeping.
Yeah,
Isn't this sad?
it is.
This is so sad. Our country has become so sad. Okay, Daniel, I appreciate you calling into the Naked Truth Report. Let me take one more call from Ron. Ron, you got a minute? You think you can talk for a minute?
Sure. The previous caller was wondering why Trump hadn't shut down the border, and Trump had threatened to do so because Mexico is allowing all the immigrants to run through its country and then amass on our border. And then he decided that he was going to go ahead and give Mexico some time to get its act together and shut it down. Last I heard that there was progress in that area and that Mexico was not going to allow any more immigrants from Central America to come through their country to go to the southern border. So last I heard.
Oops, you're off. Thanks. I'm sorry, Ron. We had to cut you off. But next week, I'm going to discuss this again because it's very important. I know that my Truth Warriors and Mythbusters are concerned about this issue. We're going to do another refresher course on illegal aliens part 2 next week, okay? We may get Thomas Homan back. I don't know. But this is important. We need to discuss it. Okay, I'll see you next week. Thank you. This is a Naked Truth Report. I'm Kathleen Wells. Thanks.
But through my eyes, the light of